Ladies and gentlemen, this is Eddie Marcus again. I want to share something with black people and people of color, minorities, poor people of every ethnicity, and even compassionate people who want to get along, white people. I want to talk to all of you guys just for a moment. We are experiencing some things in our environment, as we all would agree. It's really nothing new. It's been happening all along. Certain people have experienced it at one time or another when others didn't. The difference with right now is that all of this stuff is coming to the forefront, and it's allowing everybody to see it at the same time. First of all, you got the pandemic that comes around. There's no need of trying to point a finger about where it came from, whether it came from magic or whether it came from some scientist someplace trying to come up with something to make some money. It doesn't matter. It's here. And it came out amongst us. And it was basically indiscriminate, except to those that were more conducive to the damage that it brought. And it in itself expressed something about the society that everybody knew, but now it becomes obvious when people know that it is basically drawn to people who are deficient in certain areas. And so that speaks to all of the world how some plagues work now. Sometimes it's a different kind of plague, and it might work in a different kind of way. But for this, we see this. On the other hand, we got people all over the world that are being abused by powers. I'm just summarizing some stuff for you. All over the world, people are being abused by powers. And you might want to say it's a ethnicity or what we want to call a race. It has nothing to do with race. It's just about power. Whoever has the power exercises it the same way. They abuse it. Doesn't matter whether you black, brown, white, green, yellow, whatever. You abuse the power because you don't know how to use it. And so while in America, white people have abused the power and abused we the people for all of this long time. Well, it took us all of these years. Somebody said it was prophesied, but it took us all of these years to recognize that this stuff is not going to quit. And yet, people are trying to pretend like they're going to try to do something. But Drew Brees laid it on the table. Hey, no, it ain't about you. It's not even about your folks. It's about him and his folks. It's about what they represent, not what you represent. And the flag represents him. The flag represents his folks. The flag represents what they represent, and not you. That's what Trump is saying. And that's that part of the society which have been trained to believe just that. They are victims of the system. When I mean victims of the system, I mean they are ignorant of the truth, and they are walking according to it. Now, some of us have not gone to that degree yet. Some of us have not gone to that degree yet. Nevertheless, we must understand that the pain and suffering that we experience here in America, the pain and suffering that minorities have experienced here in America, and the pain and suffering that other people all over the world have experienced, it is because all of the other people who don't agree with that stuff are going along with it. And even when the people who are victimized to the highest order stand up, they don't get the support. Now, for instance, my brother, our brother, George Floyd, his memorial is today. And people will be gathering all across this nation and probably other places in the world talking about honoring him. And they will do this, and this will mean something. They will go back and they'll talk, and a few things might be adjusted. But ladies and gentlemen, you haven't learned a thing. The message of today is that there is only one way to peace. There's only one way to prosperity. There's only one way to freedom. There's only one way to joy of life. There's only one way to the fulfillment of your dreams. There's only one way for all of your needs for survival to be met. And if you can't even start from the starting block, that got to be your goal. Now, you talking about achieving a little of this here today and a little of that tomorrow, that's crazy. And anybody who would agree with that is still caught up in your blindness. Now, they're going to come up with this, ladies and gentlemen, but I want to say something to you. There is a plan already in play that would eliminate all of this. I'm going to give you an example of something because I want you to at least know it'll work. But before I do that, let me tell you this. What makes me sit here and say these things to you and tell you that Joe Biden is not the answer? And you know Donald Trump, I don't have to tell you that. I ask you this. Out of all the candidates that you have ever seen in your lifetime run for president of the United States, how many of them have committed their life to the concerns of the suffering and got evidence to prove it? Does Joe Biden? Does Donald Trump? Who? Any of the candidates that were running, who amongst them? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I used to want to be president. I used to want to serve you at that level. I didn't get a chance to serve you at that level, but I've been serving you ever since. When I was in the military, the Navy, Ronald Reagan was president of the United States. A lot of people love Ronald Reagan, but Ronald Reagan's policy against the poor was despicable. And as a Navy person, I refuse to take orders. I refuse to accept anything from the military except a dishonorable or an other than honorable separation. I wanted to use it on my wall. I wanted anybody to know me, know that I stood against the persecution of the poor by any power, but specifically the poor of the United States by the power of the United States. And that other than honorable separation, it said, okay, if you don't listen to us, you can't get housing, you can't get education benefit, you can't get this, you can't get that. To hell with that. Before, I don't want it if I got to go along with you abusing the poor. And I got that certificate, ladies and gentlemen. I bet you there's no other candidate that had that. Look, I came here and having going across the country to tell you the goodness of the truth. And, you know, for some strange reason, I guess, you didn't hear it. I guess I wasn't speaking right because nobody heard it. And so I committed a crime against you, the people. I committed a crime against the state of Minnesota. I stole. Well, I didn't really steal. I took it because I had access to it. I took it. Stealing to me means that you're trying to get something without people knowing it. And then went and told the people that I got it from that I took it. And when they asked what I wanted them to go to arrest me. And why did I want to be arrested? I wanted to be arrested for a moment like this when I can sit back and tell you that the message that I bring to you is so genuine and it's so true. Till I said I'm going to commit this crime. Maybe if I just commit this crime, people might say, why in the world is this man telling us these kinds of things? And then he's out here doing this. And he says, I want to talk to you in the courtroom. That's why I did it. And I had another reason because I was thought about they might not come. And they didn't come. Nobody showed up to the courts. But you know what? My other thing would be that it would be documented in the court records. So as far as I know, it's documented in court records. And my serving you, my volunteering serving you, ladies and gentlemen, have me in a position right now that in this nation, in this country, at this date and at this time, with everything that I think I'm about, I live off of $300 a month. That's my income, $300 a month. Now, can you imagine? Well, no, you can't live off $300 a month. I do have some assistance from my family members. If it weren't for them, well, I still would be standing up for the poor because I don't like it. I know it's a ripoff. Now, let me get back to what I was trying to say to you. I'm going to give you an example to let you know that the true plan works. I'm going to narrow all of the different careers and things down to about 8. Just about 8 to make it simple to understand, okay? All right. You know man did not make this earth. Some power made it. It's invisible. The evidence that a power made it is because it's here. And it has a great benefits. Oh, you can bet your last money. And many of you know exactly what those benefits are. They're God's benefits, created by God, but many have claimed them as their own. Got names on them. But the original plan was this. All of the earth and all that's in the earth, above the earth and on it, seen and unseen, given that it might be used by humankind from the beginning throughout all times. And then mankind was put upon the earth with a need, in order to survive, to have access to those resources. Turn those resources into something that meets their needs for survival and for life itself. And so as God decided to put humankind on this earth, he decided to put, let's say, 8 billion people on this earth. 8 billion people. Now let's say that 1 billion people were going to be responsible for feeding the rest of the 7 billion, the entire 8 billion. That 1 billion people would be responsible for feeding the entire world. 1 billion people. 1 billion other people would be responsible for shelter of the rest of the world. 1 billion people, their only responsibility is shelter. Everything that's involved in creation of shelter, that's their responsibility. 1 billion people across this earth, scattered here and there, responsible for housing. 1 billion people responsible, making sure that people have the clothing and other assets that they need. 3 jobs covered by 3 billion people. Each one of them doing one thing. And then another 1 billion people responsible for education. 1 billion people, do you know how many 1 billion people? And all they have to do is be responsible for education. All that is involved in education, everything that is involved in education, 1 billion people. Their job is to educate the world, to be there to make sure that anybody in the world, well, we got some scattered here, some in the United States, some in China, some all over the world, but that's their purpose. You got another 1 billion people to make sure that health care is available to all, that the greatest knowledge is available to all, that the benefit might be as wonderful and available to all. That's 1 billion people's responsibility to make sure they got health care for the whole earth. Now, everybody got their channel. They got their career. Everybody's doing their thing. And what are they creating? They are creating all of the food, all of the clothing, all of the shelter, all of the education, all the health care you can possibly need. Overabundance of it. Because they love doing it, and ain't nothing else they want to do. Then you got another 1 billion people out there responsible for the infrastructure. You got another 1 billion people out there responsible for transportation. You got another 1 billion people out there responsible for anything that's need to be done. And what you got a partnership between God and man. God created the resources and provided them all. God created man, gave them the need to have these things now, and gave them the ability to exercise and receive, and then made it wonderful. So if they're doing it, they got joy. The only joy that you can give, the only real joy. And you never run deep. You don't have to lie, to cheat, to steal, to kill, to create any reasons for hate, for animosity, for racism, for bigotry. None of that stuff. That's the plan. And that is the only plan that will work. That is the only plan that will offer humankind peace. That's the only plan that would deserve peace. Anything less than that, there should be no peace. No justice, no peace. That is the only plan that would offer prosperity for all. No other plan will do it. No democracy, no this person or this party or that party, and no other plan will do it. So when you start talking about going back, trying to work on something that's going to do this or offer a little advance deal because we don't want to give it up so fast, they're trying to tell you that they want to keep you a slave. They want to keep you there, and if you go along with it, you're saying it's okay. We don't have to move that fast. We don't mind being a slave a little bit longer. Well, my purpose here, ladies and gentlemen, is a vessel. From when I look at the sky, I can imagine the power, and I sit here under that power, telling you the truth. And I know you're not going to hear this from a Republican. You're not going to hear this from a Democrat. And all you've ever heard is something similar to what they're going to be saying. And deep down in their hearts, see, ladies and gentlemen, when you're doing it God's way, you don't have to bend to anybody. Why? Because you are an individual king amongst kings, doing kingly things for kingly people. Now, that's for men. Women, you're queens amongst queenly people, for doing queenly things for queens. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we can have a brand new world. We have, listen to me, I'm a descendant of a slave. I'm a descendant of a slave. I came in the world, my mother was so young, and she was the oldest of a family of 12. And she was so young, she couldn't take care of me. My grandmother couldn't take care of me because my grandmother had all these other little kids. So I had to go to the oldest folks in the family, the ones who were most connected to slavery. I had to go all the way back to them. Why did I go back? Because they loved me. They tell me that one of my cousins, one of my mother's cousins, was a little older than she was. However, she had a baby during the same month that my mother had a baby. And my cousin, second cousin, whatever they want to call it, used to tell me about how she used to walk around in the house with her daughter on one breast and me on the other breast. Now, you telling me that somebody care about you? Somebody caring about you if they're doing that for you. And here in the midst of all of this, ladies and gentlemen, and every time I found myself in some crazy situation, I rose above it, not on my own power, and I always knew it wasn't on my own power. And this is why I sit in this chair, because I have made a decision to accept that power that moves me in this way. I know when I look at all of Donald Trump, and I look at all those Republicans who set up and let Donald Trump walk all over the Constitution, which it needed to be walked over, but hopefully not that way. See, when I ran for president, I talked about the things that I just got through sharing to you about, but I was black and poor. And that's the number one, two thing you can't, at that time, you can't do that and try to achieve nothing like that. I must be out of my mind, but I was in my right spiritual mind when it came to you. That was my message, trying to share God's message with you. Then somebody come along, white, say he got enough money, and say he care about you, and you bought into it, and it's the worst thing you ever had in your lifetime. I'm not laughing at you, because you didn't know any better. Now, do you know better? There are some of you who do. People like Brees, and I'm just using you, Brees, because you said what you said. You put yourself out here on this stumbling block. You put yourself out there trying to say that was the best way to be. And that's the way you advocate to be. And we're not blaming you for it. We just a sick thought. When you think about your folks fought to preserve what this nation is to be about, and when this nation is not about what you say your folks died for and fought for, and actually doing things totally opposite for what they gave their lives for, and you sit here and still want to cling to the idea of what they fought for, rather than deal with the reality of what is happening right now, well, see, brother, we have to give you an excuse. You know, we have to excuse you. And I hope the brothers, when the football season come around, still catch your pass. Still running. You see somebody will say, well, if they don't, just stop giving them the money. See, that's what I'm talking about, ladies and gentlemen. The money. That's the way the world and its systems run. And ladies and gentlemen, when I was talking about those things, the real plan, I guess you know that means that the system has got to change. The system, the American system of economics and democracy and stuff like that has to change. Now, what do I say about democracy? If democracy means vote, means that everybody matters, if that's what democracy means, then everybody matters. That is democracy. But in its system, I don't want to put a name on it because I don't know. Every name that I've heard about economic systems, all have failed. So all the thing I can say is the divine system, it does not fail. The divine system does not fail. Capitalism and socialism and I don't know how them dictators might be doing that stuff. But whatever way that they are doing it, it will all fail. It's already failed. And only the one way will work. And that one way, my friends, is everybody. If God put 8 billion people on the face of the earth, He's talking about 8 billion people getting up in the morning, happy to be getting up. Going to sleep at night, feeling real comfortable. Ain't locking their doors, not locking their cars, and worried about anything. Why? Because we are all brothers and sisters, and we don't have anything to worry about. That's God's way. And if you going, all of you who are talking about making some changes, those of you who've been persecuted, I'm talking about the blacks, people of color, if you go in and negotiate anything and compromise away any of your freedom, you are blind as a bat. Look, today I went, and I'm going to cut this off. Today I went to the dollar store to buy my dog some food. And as I was coming back, there was a Hispanic family, I guess, on one corner, with the 2 little kids, and they were had a sign up saying, asking for some support. And I could recognize that, I felt that, but I didn't have anything. I just come from the dollar store. But I didn't want him thinking, look at that. I didn't want that thought on me. So I made a block, and I came right back through there. And I stopped, let my window down. I told the brother I apologized. I said, I don't want to be disrespectful for your cause. I said, but look, I'm shopping at the dollar store. He said, oh, well, thank you. He thought I was saying, I stopped at the dollar store and I got this for you. He reached for that. Oh, no, this is mine. I got this. You see that? You see what they're talking about? Shopping at the dollar store and anybody. And this is the way of the world? No, ladies and gentlemen. So I wanted you to know that at least there is a way that works. So if anybody tell you that it can't be done, they're talking about it can't be done under their system. They're saying that if they don't want to make it right, it's because they don't care about you, and their system is most important because it works for them. I want you to know that it can be done. So every last one of you, you know how simple I just made that. I made that so simple the kids at the playground can understand it. And you know the work, they know the work. Just move that money stuff out of the way. You're taking care of yourselves. You're playing a game. You're living, and your living is doing this for you. You're living, and your living is doing this for you. You're living, and your living is doing this for you. You ain't got no intermediary over there. For those of you in this country, we don't have no Donald Trump in the middle of there. We don't have anybody that's threatening us. We don't have anybody that's telling folks to punish us. We don't have anybody that's telling the military to shoot, and they just as stupid and ignorant as they can be. They're pulling triggers, shooting and throwing tear gas on American people. You see how dumb, how ignorant we are? Ignorant. Don't know any better, ladies and gentlemen. Our military don't know any better. and then justify by saying, I was just a soldier, just following orders. See? See, God would never give you an order like that. But anyway, um, yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope it blessed you. It has blessed me. And know it can be done. When they start saying it can't, then you can always pull up, show them how it can be done. And if it's ever going to be done, it's going to be done that way. So I say don't waste any more time. Don't be wasting until no next year. Don't be wasting until no 21. Don't be wasting no 23, 35, thinking you might move with that way gradually. The hell with that stuff. Let's take the plan right now in 20 after this election. And people have made the choices. This is what they want. Let's execute that plan right away. Let's start changing America and make America not great again, but make America beautiful for the very first time, so the world can look at it and say, "Wow, we didn't know that black people and people of color and the poor people and the minority had so much talent. Look what we've missed." Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Until next time, Eddie Marcus saying goodbye.